Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and anybody else who is joining us this week. This is the Sheffield United way, and we are doing championship predictions. We are on game week number 33. But as you will have noticed, Good Nick is not here introducing the video today. Unfortunately, he has double booked himself and is not able to join us. So I'm doing this one solo. So bear with me, and hopefully we'll still have a pretty good time together. I welcome your comments into the chat, and hopefully we'll be able to have a little bit of interaction and a bit of chat around what our predictions are for this week. Now, reflecting on last week, and it was another one of those weeks where, Nick thought he could catch up. He thought he might stand a chance, and he didn't. So once again, I have extended my lead over Nick this time out. I got 12 points, including 3 perfect scores, and I am absolutely delighted with that. Now, Nick, actually, to be fair to him, did get more results correct than I did, but unfortunately, without getting the 3-pointers, he just leaves himself lagging behind every time. We also had our viewers. The viewers did a fantastic job this time out, and there's a few that are worth a shout out. Wolfgang Bailey got 7 points. I thought he put in a really good performance. He did call me out for last week as well, where I'd not given him his fair due on his performance. But unfortunately, Wolfgang, I didn't have your comments in the YouTube video. So please do remember, if you're going to join in with the predictions game, put your predictions in the comments on the YouTube video. And the viewers' winner this week was Peter Heppel. A fantastic effort from Peter and 14 points. You really can't complain at that. It's a fantastic return. And well, he beat me, he beat Nick, and he probably put himself in as the top performer in game week 32. So, into this week's predictions, and we start with Cardiff. Now, I'll be honest with you. Ahead of this video, I've not actually seen Nick's predictions, so I'm going to find out what he's predicted at the same time you are. See, he's gone 1-1 here, and I can understand why. But for me, Reading got a really good win midweek, Winning it in the last minute really boosts your confidence. You get a bit of momentum. You start feeling as though you're able to keep going on with it. But they're not very good away from home. It keeps their entire season ticking over the same way it's gone from the start. They're good at home, they're terrible away. It's 6 without a win away from home for Reading, and so it's hard to really see them getting a result here. Cardiff, meanwhile, have been on terrible form, but they finally got the win that they've been waiting for with a really impressive result away at Birmingham. They'll really have targeted this one, wanting to back it up, wanting to get another positive result. And I think they can. I can see that Daniel agrees with me. JohnEgan.com thinks it's going to be a draw. He agrees with Nick. Scott thinks that Reading are going to take it. And I can see it. Cardiff have had a bit of a shocker of a season so far, lucky not to be in the relegation zone. But I think I can see them turning it around. I think this is the week for them. And I think Reading away from home, definitely one that they will look to win. So next game up, we have Millwall versus Sheffield United. Now, I've seen comments already referring to it in the chat. I've seen Scott making a little bit of fun of some of the Twitter reaction that we've seen so far to our performance yesterday. Can see that Johnny is enjoying it from the Burnley perspective. But from my perspective, I think it's one of those games where actually it was a bit of a poor performance from United, but Middlesbrough were outstanding. And sometimes you have to give teams their due. They were fantastic on the night, and they probably got a win they deserved. But it's not all doom and gloom for United. They had a really decent performance in terms of the XG. We had chances. We just didn't take them. So with a little bit more composure, maybe if Ile could have just sorted his feet out a little bit easier, we could have taken something from the game. So going into this, it's another really big game for us. We need to show that we can bounce back. And I think it's a tough one. I think going to Millwall away is difficult for anybody. I know that we've beat them already away from home this season, but it was in the FA Cup, and we know that they made quite a few changes. So I'm going with a draw. I can see that Nick agrees with me, and I just hope we're both wrong. I hope that somebody like John Egan is correct, that Dan Yallop is correct, that Joachim is correct, and that United can win this game. And Scott makes a good point there just on that game. You can see United on the stats, there is an argument there to say they should have won the game. Personally, from watching it, I didn't think that was the case. I thought the better team did win, albeit that United had some really good chances. So moving through, we then have Blackburn versus Swansea. Now, difficult game to predict this one. I can see why Nick's gone for the home win. I can see that Blackburn, they're on a bit of a poor run. They've really dropped themselves out of that sort of playoff race. But they have got it in them to put together big wins as and when they want to, really. They just have to turn up on the day. The big thing for me on this one is that Blackburn, obviously, another team who got a last-minute goal midweek. And that was the first time, I believe, do correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that this is the first time all season that Blackburn have come from behind to equalise in any game. So to do that in the 90th minute feels like it could be important for them, feels like it could be a little bit of one of those moments where the momentum shifts just a little bit. But they have drawn 5 in 6, and I'm just committed to the meme, I'll be honest. Blackburn are one of them teams that go on runs. They went so long without drawing. Now all they do is draw. And I'm willing to commit to them constantly drawing. Now, because Nick's not here and we're not getting the opposite perspective, I just thought I'd throw in some fun stats here and there just to try and keep us all interested, to try and keep myself from going insane as well. Fun stat for this one. Swansea's Joel Pirot has the highest XG in the division despite not being in, I think, the top 5 scorers. He's got 13.5 that he could have had. He's only scored 11. So bonus prediction from me is that he will score in this game. And I think from now to the end of the season, we'll see a lot better performance from him. He'll probably get a few goals and he'll end the season by at least matching, if not being a little bit above his XG, because I think he's a fantastic player and I think he's got that in him. Let's have a look at what some of you think. I can see Joachim is backing a Blackburn win. He agrees with Nick. Andrew thinks that there's going to be a draw and a very entertaining draw, just like I do. But most of you, I can see as I go through predicting these Blackburn wins, and I can see it. I think they'll do well to beat Birmingham, Dan, I'll be honest. But, when they play Birmingham, I'm sure they'll fancy the chances. Let's have a look at who we've got up next. Blackpool against Stoke. Me and Nick, obviously, very different on this one. He's gone for a Stoke win. I've gone for a Blackpool win. Now, why have I done that? Because I'm insane, I think, is the only reason. Blackpool, bottom of the league, terrible performance levels at the minute. They're not winning games. They're not drawing games. McCarthy's not really had any impact on it since coming into the club. And those signings who I was so excited about coming in January have really had no impact at all. But at some point, they will get a win. This is the Championship, and we know that everybody can get a win at some point. And I think McCarthy has got it in him to inspire a turnaround in Blackpool. Stoke obviously had a fantastic performance midweek, a really good 3-0 home win. And I think, if anything, that might mean that they just rest on the laurels just a little bit, maybe open the door for Blackpool to be able to try and take a result in this game. And I've got my second fun stat. And my fun stat this time is about Blackpool. They have had nine red cards so far this season. Just to put that into perspective, the next team who's got the most have got 3. So they've got 3 times as many red cards as anybody else in the division. That's Marvin Ekpiteta has got 2. He's got the joint most in the division, 4 red cards. And goalkeeper Chris Maxwell has given away the most penalties in the league. So they really need to sort out that side of their game, because if you're giving away penalties, if you're getting sent off, you've really got no chance. Now, I can see in the comments that everybody thinks I am talking absolute rubbish. Everybody's going for a Stoke win. And I'll be honest, I can completely understand why. I think all of the form, all of the stats probably suggest that Stoke will do it. But I just got a feeling in my jellies, just got that little bit of feeling in my jellies that I think Blackpool could take this one. But Joachim, you're certainly not wrong. There is every chance that Blackpool are doomed and they are set for another season in League One next time out. So who next? And it's another team who very much could end up being in League One next season. But as you can see, myself and Nick both think they can get a positive result this weekend. And I think, for me, I've been looking at these results, and I think this is the weekend the relegation battle really kicks into overdrive. I've already said that I think Blackpool could win. I'm saying here that I think Huddersfield could win. I think they can really start to drag more teams in. I think I even predicted a Cardiff win. All of a sudden, if you're somebody like Birmingham and you're in 18th, 19th, you could get dragged into it if the predictions I've gone for come true this weekend. But the main thing for me, the big impact, of course, is that he is out of retirement. He has come back for one last ride. Sharon has given him permission to go out once again. And he's going to, I think, do his best to keep Huddersfield up. He started his career there. This is going to be his first time back at Huddersfield. He's going to have had time with the squad. He's going to have picked the team himself. I think there's every chance they can win this, and they'll make Birmingham start looking over their shoulders once again. And I can see a mix coming through the chat now. I can see some agree with us. Some think that Warnock is, of course, the relegation whisperer and can keep any team up. We've got some draws, and then we've got some very predictable Birmingham wins. And to be honest, I think the logic suggests that Birmingham will win it, and I'm just putting all my faith in Neil Warnock because that's just what I do. It's just what we've got to do sometimes. So, on to the next game, and we've got Hull versus Preston. Now, Preston are just a really good away team. I say this every week, and Nick never listens to me and continues to predict them to lose whenever they play an away game. But they're very good away from home. They struggle at home, and that's really been one of the annoyances for their fans this season. They've not seen a proper team performance at home pretty much all season. But away from home, they're more than a match for any team in this division, except Burnley, who absolutely battered them a few weeks ago. But we'll ignore that because Burnley do that to everybody. But Hull, they're unbeaten at home since the World Cup. So it's a bit bold going out on a limb saying that they're going to lose. But I just think they've drawn with Blackpool. They've drawn with Huddersfield. Their home form isn't as good as it could be. And I think if you can sit in, if you're willing to defend and you can catch them on the break, that's really how you get at this whole team. And I think Preston are a team that can certainly do that. I can see in the chat that lots of people are going for draws. We've got some Preston wins, some Hull wins. And Andrew is predicting an absolutely cracking game. So if it's 4-2, I hope it's on telly because I think that would be a fantastic watch. And I just want to throw up the band coming back together at Huddersfield. Is he signing Paddy? Probably not, but I wouldn't put it past him. He might get Paddy in. He might get Tongi in. Jags could get there for one last ride. And of course, Lee Bromby is already on the coaching staff. So there's every chance Warnock gets the band back together, as it were. Now, next up, we've got Luton against Burnley. Now, Burnley are the best team in the league. We've said it once, we've said it twice, and we'll say it a million times between now and the end of the season. But they were a little bit lucky to get that last-minute equaliser against Watford. I mean, don't get me wrong, over the course of the game, they more than deserved it. But scoring last-minute winners in a game where you've made a really bad defensive mistake to concede the goal, it's not a great sign. And it's maybe I'm clutching at straws. Maybe it's just about time that something changed and they didn't just get away with it. But I think they could be a little bit vulnerable, and Luton is a really, really tough place to go. I don't think Burnley will lose. I don't think they might not lose again this season. To be honest, they're on an insane unbeaten run, and I can see it continuing, but they will drop points from time to time, and I think this could be one. Luton have won their last 2 home games. They're unbeaten in the last 5. They're 4th in the league, and they're a very, very good team on their own merit. So I could see them getting something here, but of course, Nick completely disagrees, and he believes that Luton he thinks they'll give him a good game, but that they're not going to be able to get any points. I can see John Egan agrees with me, which is nice to hear. I can see James agrees with me. Joachim agrees with me. So maybe I'm not going insane. Maybe I've not lost my mind in hoping that Burnley can drop points. I can see that Dan very much doesn't agree and thinks it'll be a comfortable Burnley win. And I think we can all probably imagine that being the case. But you've got to hope that at least at some point they drop points, because if they keep going as they are now, I think they'll break the record for points because it's insane how well they have been doing. Right. On to, I'm going to call them the villains of the piece because I'm still very bitter about last night and I never want to have to see United get beat like that again. I know we've had some comments before and I talked about it on United with, in the stats, Middlesbrough do give up big chances. They are a team that you can score against, and that if you are on it and if you can take your chances, they're a team that you can beat. But I'll tell you what, they're good. If they've got the ball, they're very, very good. I thought across the board, they were really strong against us. I thought when they were playing through the lines, when they were dominating midfield, they showed that they are a really top-level team at this division. And I think they're possibly the best that have come to Bramall Lane so far this year. They'll really want to keep that momentum going. They'll feel as though, having beat United, they can now kick on and try to chase us down. So that's what they're going to be trying to do. And so they're going to come into this game really thinking they can win it. But QPR, just on horrific form. Just really horrific. There's something rotten there. I don't think Critchley will get sacked. I think they've invested in him, and I think they'll probably keep him now to the start of next season and give him the chance to build a squad. But Jesus, it can't go on like this, because I think he's won one game since he became manager. That was on the 17th of December. So at some point, he's got to turn something around. They're getting well beaten by most teams. Sunderland did him, I think, 3-0 last night. This visit to Boro couldn't come at a worse time. And this is my banker, because I think it's got to be, because I think Middlesbrough are just comfortably a better team than QPR, and QPR are in just terrible, terrible form. And Nick clearly agrees. And I'm sure he didn't tell me that it was his banker, but I'm sure that if he was here, he would be agreeing with me, because this looks a very, very comfortable Middlesbrough win. Let's see what you guys think. 7-1 from Joachim. If it's 7-1, then Jesus, I think he might get sacked after a 7-1, because not many teams are going to be able to get away with one of them. Shock 1-0 victory for QPR. Now, I'd take that. So if the Curious Project is right and QPR can nick this, I think we'd all be much the happier coming back to this video next week, seeing that Boro have dropped points. But at this moment, I just don't see it right now. And then I can see that James is going for a 2-2 draw. Again, I would take that. I just think Boro dropping points, particularly given the sort of mental strength they're going to have now off the back of that they'll go for it. Let's see where they come, how they come into it, and what happens next. Up next, we've got Rotherham against Coventry. Now, this for me was a really tough prediction. I was looking at Coventry's form, and they've lost 4 in a row away from home. 3 of their defeats have been 1-0. And I think it's just going to be the same again from them. I think they're a very good side. I think that they've got it in them to be one of the better teams in this division, but their form has been shocking. And I think because of the injuries, they're really feeling the impact of that. And behind their starting 11, they've just not got enough. Rotherham, I predicted them to lose midweek. And when I predicted them to lose, I said, tell you what, I think they'll lose to Reading, but they won't panic because that'll be fine. I then left the game, came home, checked my group chat. Oh, God, that kind of result's what gets you relegated. So it shows what I know. I have not got my finger on the pulse of the Rotherham fans at all. So maybe I've misread the vibe, but I think they're good enough to stay up. And I think they will be feeling confident themselves. And I think they can just edge a really, really close game here. Some people agree. Some people disagree. We've got some Coventry winners, some Coventry breaking their bad away form, some saying that Rotherham will nick it, similar to me. Charlie Brown thinks that there'll be more goals than usual in a Rotherham game and go for 2-1. And James agrees. Very interesting. So it'll be good to see where this one goes. Hopefully it is a Rotherham win and it gets me even more points in hand on Nick, because I'm running away with it right now. So I need every point I can get just to really rub it in for him when he's not here. Now, up next, Sunderland versus Bristol City. And I'll start off with an apology to the Bristol City fans. Somebody came to me in the comments last week and they said, Ollie, you never predict Bristol City to win. We're playing Wigan at home and you never predict Bristol City to win. And so I went back through my predictions. I thought, no, that can't be right. At the start of the season, I thought Bristol City were a decent team. The last time that I predicted a Bristol City win was on the 20th of October. Which is absolutely insane. They've been on a great run of form since then. They're unbeaten in 7 right now. They've beat some of the big teams in the division. They beat Norwich. They beat West Brom. And yet I'm still not predicting them to win. And I can only apologise. But for me, Sunderland have won their last 2. They're unbeaten in 5. I think this is a really evenly matched game between 2 teams in good form who are both pretty much going to be happy with a draw, just keeping them unbeaten runs ticking over. And we have my final fun stat for this one. I've been big on saying that Victor Johansson is the best keeper in the league, but looking into the stats, since coming into the Bristol City side in October, goalkeeper Max O'Leary has the best goals prevented rating of all the goalkeepers in the Championship. So I'm not predicting them to concede many goals between now and the end of the season. I'm certainly not predicting a 3-3 like johnegan.com is, but I think they will concede here. I think 1-1. I think Andrew knows. And others seem to be thinking Sunderland are going to nick it. Some are agreeing with Nick. They think that Sunderland will take this one. Sunderland certainly seem to be the favourites, given what we've got in our comments. So, Bristol City fans, it's not just me. It's not just me who don't think you'll win. Don't shoot the messenger. Up next, we've got Wigan against Norwich. And Nick, controversial prediction from Nick, I think. 1-1 here. I mean, well, Wigan have done well under Maloney since he's come in, getting those sort of, I think they're 3 unbeaten now. They've got a win. They've got a couple of draws. So maybe they have got it in them to be a little bit stronger. They can come into this game with a little bit of confidence. But that disastrous run under Torre, it really did knock them to the bottom of the league, in my opinion. I know they've been improved. I know they've got better, but I still don't think they've quite got enough to be competing in games like this against teams like Norwich, but also to stay up ultimately come the end of the season. Norwich had a couple of bad results, but bounced back really, really well midweek. And I just think they'll back that up against a team that they're better than. Ultimately, just think they are better than them. And Dan would go as far as to say it's his banker, and I would completely respect his decision for doing that. I think 2-0 is a good prediction. I think Charlie agrees. And I can see a few others picking Norwich. I can see James picking a Norwich banker. I can see why. And I think if it wasn't for my stance on Middlesbrough being as good as they are, I probably would have been agreeing. But not everyone. John Egan thinks Wigan are going to nick it. Andrew thinks that Wigan are going to nick it. Maybe that brings a bit of doubt. Maybe I wouldn't banker it. I hope Nick does. And the final game that we've got this weekend is Watford versus West Brom. This is Monday night. And Watford, obviously, were on telly up against Burnley. We all saw them. They took the lead. They defended it right until the very last and conceded with one of the last kicks of the game. Now, that's got to hurt, particularly when you're playing against a team that are as good as Burnley are. That's now no winning 5 for Watford. They've got João Pedro back, which is a huge boost to their confidence. He's one of the best players in the league, and they'll really feel as though they need him to be fit and to kick on. And they've got 2 huge games coming up. This is the week that will decide what Watford's season looks like ultimately. They've got West Brom, and then next week they've got Sheffield United. And I think if they can take 4 points from that, they'll be saying, right, we are going to be in the playoffs and we're going to be one of the best teams in it. Get no points from that, get 1 point from those games, and suddenly you're thinking, ooh, we've got some catching up to do, and we know how trigger happy they are. I made a joke about it last week, but I do think if they go to no winning 6, no winning 7, then Slaven Bilic is certainly in trouble. But Watford themselves, West Brom themselves had a little bit of late heartbreak in the midweek. They conceded in the last minute. And I don't think they are feeling fantastic right now. They've dropped to 10th in the division. They had a fantastic rise in the Corberan. But since those rumours have been moving away, they do seem to have just lost a little bit of focus, lost a little bit of their play. So they'll really want to bounce back. But I think a draw here, I think both teams would be relatively happy with it. They don't lose any ground on each other. And it could also be a very entertaining game. Nick disagrees. He's gone for a Watford win. Can see lots in the chat all saying Watford wins. We can see Joachim, we can say John Egan, we can see Andrew, we can see James, all thinking that Watford are going to win this one. But I think I'll give the last word to Charlie Brown because it's Watford in it. And who knows what could happen. They could win it, they could lose it, they could draw it. None of us actually know. Watford in it. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining me today. Apologies that Nick wasn't able to be here with me, but I hope we've got through it together. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope that we will see you again next week when we go through game week 34. And hopefully I've just beat Nick again, because that's what really matters, isn't it? Let's be honest. Have a nice evening, guys.